What is good, everyone? TF32 is here for round 2 of the 990cc MotoGP Championship here on Ride 5. As you can see, we're headed over to Utah for the Chinese Grand Prix, because it's supposed to take place in Shanghai, but of course we do not have Shanghai International Circuit on this game, so we have to suffice for Utah, because the AI are pretty good around here, and it should make for a pretty good race. Coming up, you're about to see our Riders' Championship. Marco Melandri won the first race, so he's in the lead. We finished 5th, so we are 5th in the championship. Our only concern right now is Shane Nakano, who is P16. And as you can see in the team standings, that is affecting us just that little bit, even though it's one race in. Because we're 6th, right behind Rizzo Suzuki and Repsol Honda, and just ahead of Golos, the Yamaha factory team. So hopefully we can improve upon that and turn rags into riches going into the next round. So we arrive at the Utah Motorsports Campus. I'm going to be making some adjustments to the transmission per usual. I'm turning that up just so, again, I don't have a massive advantage against the AI, because while they can be strong in certain tracks, it doesn't mean I cannot beat them. So now we're heading over to the live session where we're going to fast forward and see how the qualifying plays out. And it should take us a little bit of time until we actually get to some laps. Another note I'd like to make is do not fast forward if you don't want to see the AI clumped up together, because I've noticed that happens at certain circuits. So we're waiting for them eventually to put times up on the board. And Makoto Tamada is the first to strike with a 2:45.458. Of course, that's just a banker lap, as he's going to get beaten immediately, as now Tony Elias is the holder of pole position, and now Rossi takes over, so it's a little more involved than the last round at Suzuka. Championship leader Marco Melandri, well within the top 5. He'll drop down to 5th for a little bit, as you'll see in a bit. But right now, the front row consists of Rossi, Elias, and Italian rival Max Biaggi, and Alex Barros finished 2nd on the podium in the last race, so he's still in the top 10. Kenny Roberts actually moves up to 2nd, pretty late on. Casey Stoner up there, very nice from that satellite Honda. Now Carlos Checa jumps up to pole, and I think that's where it's going to remain, as Rossi's still 2nd, Roberts still 3rd. Biaggi drops down to 4th. Tony Elias actually drops down to 5th. Marco Melandri, the championship leader, still in 6th. And closest rival to him, Barros, still in 10th. And not much is going to change after that, although we will see Toru Ukawa jump up to, I believe, 5th, if I'm not mistaken. But not a lot happens in this last minute and a half. Yeah, very last second, Toru Ukawa jumps up to 5th on that factory Honda. And as you can see, the AI aren't perfect, as they're still going through dirt, but it's not enough to actually make them crash. But yeah, this is our final qualifying leaderboard. And one thing I did not notice when Carlos Checa set that time is that he was nearly a full second ahead of 2nd. Everybody else decently close together, except for the very back, as you'll probably see. I also did not make the same mistake that I made in episode 1, where I forgot to check all the times to make sure I could update the graphic properly. But that's all we have to see here, folks. So without further ado, let's head over to Sunday for the starting grid.
Are you ready, Boots?
Welcome to the TF32 commentary box, where we are broadcasting live from Utah Motorsports Campus. So, on to the starting grid. Carlos Checa with a 2:42.855 alongside Valentino Rossi and Kenny Roberts Jr. Row 2, Max Biaggi, Toru Ukawa, and Tony Elias. Row 3, championship leader Marco Melandri, Casey Stoner, and Sete Gibernau. Row 4, Danny Pedrosa, Alex Barros, and John Hopkins. Row 5, Nicky Hayden, Loris Capirossi, and Chris Vermeulen. Row 6, Shinny Nakano, Troy Bayliss, and Makoto Tamada. And rounding out the back of the grid, we got Colin Edwards and yours truly. Now, on to my final race setup. This is one of the longest tracks on the calendar, so we're doing 7 laps, balanced AI, turning tire wear on. We're actually switching to a hard front tire because there's a lot of hard braking around here. And we go to the starting grid. We are starting from last, Carlos Checa on pole position. We have red lights here at Utah Motorsports Campus. Lights out and away we go. We get a decent start off the line, so does Carlos Checa. However, Kenny Roberts also gets a really good run. In fact, so good a run that he is going to ultimately take the lead of the Chinese Grand Prix. And he goes into turn 1 leading. As Rossi goes a little wide, so does Roberts. But Kenny Roberts leads here at the Chinese Grand Prix at Utah. Valentino Rossi just behind in second. Carlos Checa looking on the inside, looking a little threatening in third. Toru Ukawa just behind in fourth. Let's hop on board briefly with Ukawa. We're going on this back straight. Looking at the back of Checa, going into this hairpin right here. I believe this is the only hairpin on the track. Ukawa right now is Camel Honda Pawn's saving grace on this first lap because they're second in points. Ukawa currently holds the 4th spot. Barros is in the top 10. We're right behind Barros trying to get into that top 10 spot. So we look right behind trying to find some way on him. And this is an area where the AI isn't the best at taking it really tight, but they are really good at keeping their speed, as you'll see throughout this race. So we're getting challenged by Makoto Tamada here, right on the inside. He tries to get on the inside on that underpowered 2019 Honda. And meanwhile, Kenny Roberts is holding his own in first. Has a bit of a wiggle in that high-speed right-hand turn, but is able to keep it together and has a competent lead at the moment, ahead of Rossi in second. Although Rossi is having a look right behind, he is right on the back of him. Is he going to go for an overtake into this left-hander right here? No, not quite close enough. And as we get out of here, we're into this chicane. I believe it's called the Attitude Corners. There's a massive rumble strip on the right side. In Ride 4, you could just go over that and not get any time penalty. But in this game, they fixed it, and if you take too much of it, you will get a time penalty. Then we got Checa, Ukawa. Tony Elias is up into 5th spot. And meanwhile, we actually are fighting Alex Barros still at the moment, trying to get past. We do get past. We just bump into Casey Stoner in the back, nearly go off track, onto that outer rumble strip, but we hold it together in P10 as Kenny Roberts, the 2,500cc world champion, leads. And on this back straight, it's a brilliant opportunity for those faster bikes like the Yamahas and the Hondas to close in on those slower bikes, such as the Suzuki and the Kawasaki, as Barros is just flying past Casey Stoner on that straight, showing the deficit of the 2019 Honda versus the 2022 Honda. Valentino Rossi had a pretty decent comeback from 15th to 9th, picking up 7 points in the opening round at Suzuka. Right now sitting on 20 if he were to finish where he is, and actually help get Golos Yamaha back into a respectable point in the standings. They should be high up because the 5-time world champion usually knows what he's doing on the track. Jumping back to my perspective for a bit, we are still in a battle with Alex Barros, with him having passed us on that front straight. And what you didn't see is that Stoner also had a bit of an upper hand on the speed. We're still battling with Barros, going into Demon, and we're trying to hold together, go a little wide, and Barros should have to cut back, but he doesn't. So now he's behind us, and now we're trying to go after Marco Melandri. But he is just ahead of us as we jump back to the front of the pack. Kenny Roberts, probably at least half a second ahead of the much faster M1 of Valentino Rossi. Now, more about these turns, very fast going into them. You want to make sure you don't apply the brake too much, otherwise you will lose the front. It isn't entirely as flat as it appears on your screen. It's deceptively easy to lose the front. In fact, I have had past recordings where the AI have had trouble. Colin Edwards still pretty far at the back. Tamada looking like a pentennial back marker in 19th, with the only person behind him being the Ducati of Troy Bayliss, of course being Aprilia powered. Now, it's very unfortunate because Tamada was a very strong competitor, kind of mid-level actually, during his actual time in MotoGP. So going forward, this is the final round that you're going to see them on the 2019 Honda, because I just made some new liveries, so they're not going to be regular back markers, Tamada and Stoner. So starting from the Grand Prix of South Africa at Road Atlanta in the next video, they will be on the 2022 bike. As we hop back to myself, I got past a couple of guys. I got past Melandri. I have been by Barrows for some time. So once again here you're able to see the top speed deficit as Melandri's getting by us. And I'm sorry, we're making a quick urgent cutback here, as on the strays I mentioned before, the Yamaha has that top speed advantage, and Rossi, the 5-time world champion, gets by the 500cc world champion to take the lead of this Chinese Grand Prix at Utah. So Rossi now leads, ahead of Roberts in second, Checa in third, Biaggi fourth. I believe Elias is now down to 6th with Ukawa getting by him. I'm trying to find some way by Melandri again after that front straight, because I just do not have that top speed. So the only way I can overtake a lot of these guys is going into the corners. As we are keeping an eye on Melandri, making sure he does not overtake us, we are at the same time trying to keep an eye on Seti Gibernau and Tony Elias, 2 Spaniards right ahead of us, and Ukawa heading that group of 3. It's a slight group of 3. And I'm a little stronger than them going into these corners of Demon, Devil, and Diablo, which I just noticed are the corner names. A little quicker, I tend to take it a little tighter, although I am going a little bit wide going into those particular turns. So I get right alongside Gibernau with the intention of trying to pick up some slipstream at the end of it. So I'm doing that, picking up a little too much speed, and then all of a sudden I crash out. So I am temporarily out of the fight, as we are going to hop back to the very front, and now we're going back to me. I'm down, just flirting with the points, and we're back with the Suzukis and my teammate well outside the points. He's in 17th, so this is not what I need from Nakano. Meanwhile, Rossi, he isn't even looking behind. He's just very confident in the way he's riding. He knows he's going to win this race. He needs to compose himself, and he will be on the top step of that podium for the first time this season and bring a big haul of points back to the Golos Factory Yamaha garage. Now hopping back to my perspective, trying the slipstream out against Casey Stoner, we discover our speed in a straight line in slipstream actually is not that bad, as we make an overtake on Casey Stoner, and forget our top speed on the 2007 Suzuki-powered Kawasaki. That Honda, the 2019 one, is a detriment. And honestly, it's not too much quicker than the 2005 bike that I had them on before. Like, I think it's insane how much slower the 2019 Honda is in contrast to not just the 2022 Honda, but also a lot of the other 2019 bikes. I had an option of putting them on the Panigale V4R, the Ducatis, but we just don't have that visual appeal. There isn't a lot of space for the numbers, the sponsors on the front of that bike. As we're hopping right with Alex Barros, he is just in the top 10. He is in 9th. And I cannot lie to y'all, there isn't a ton of other interesting stuff happening at the front, so we're going to hop with Casey Stoner. And he started in the top 10 of this race. He's down to 15th. He's trying to hang on to a single point for LCR Honda. But we are now seeing and sort of prove my point as to how bad this 2019 Honda is and why they are switching over to the 2022 bike for next season. Because in 06, Casey Stoner picked up a podium, and he was a regular top 8 finisher for all the races that he finished. In fact, I don't think he ever finished lower than 8th in any of the races that he ended up seeing the checkered flag for, as we are now with Loris Capirossi as one of the overtakees so far of Casey Stoner. And it's so unfortunate, John Hopkins. Casey Stoner's really going to drop back, but not a ton of overtaking. At the same time, I have a big gap to make up, and that's why we hopped back there. And now we are with Alex Barros looking at the back of Checa, and he is going to be looking to get past for basically this whole race. Hold on, I'm just realizing right now, Carlos Checa must have had some incident. He does crash on turn 1. In normal circumstances, he'd be out of the race, but he respawns, and he's down to the 8th spot right beside Barros. Barros tries to overtake him. We're just going back a little bit. And Checa is trying to have a bit of a battle with Barros, try to keep that position. He does. As we hop back live, even more people getting past that stricken Honda of Casey Stoner, Christopher Mullen getting by. We still have a bit of a gap to get to Colin Edwards in P12, still in P13, so it's going to take us a little bit of time to get there. As we cut back a little later in the first third of the following lap, you're finally on the back of Colin Edwards, trying to set up some sort of move. We know we're stronger in this next part of the track, so we're looking at the back of Edwards, trying to get onto the inside here as we hop along board. We're looking on the inside of that turn. That doesn't work. We know that they go a little wide on this part. We take advantage, capitalize, and we get onto the inside, and we try to hold it to ensure that we keep that position. And now the next person to overtake is right in front of us, Nicky Hayden, with Danny Pedrosa just ahead. This is where we previously crashed in the race, so we're going to try and keep it clean, make sure we don't have any intentional collisions or any of that nasty stuff. And ahead is another championship contender, very early to say, but close enough to the leader regardless, is Alex Barros. Looking alongside Nicky Hayden, setting up a very tight move. We hope to go on the inside. We do, and we're blocking him going out of that corner, and we're trying to go after Pedrosa. Hopefully we can overtake him later, but we'd be happy right now just to get a top 10 after this recovery ride. This race is really all about damage limitation. As we cut to the very end of the race, Rossi just rounding out the last couple of corners. After having that massive overspeed on the straight of Roberts, there's no turning back. Biaggi also manages to get past on the identical Yamaha to Rossi, but he's able to taste victory for the first time this season. Rossi gets to win ahead of Biaggi and Roberts making up the podium. We do manage to make up a couple of positions, eventually getting by Pedrosa and Barros. We cannot get by Checa though, so we'll have to settle for P9, but it's a top 10 finish yet again, although only 7 points, and Shane Nakano really not doing much to contribute. So as a result, the championship is getting even closer with Rossi taking that win, and Biaggi and Roberts. And then Ukawa in 4th, Elias in 5th, Gibernau 6th, Melandri, and Carlos Checa, they make up the top 8. So, very good result from Roberts getting that first podium, finishing in 12th in the previous race at Suzuka. We, of course, finished in 9th, picking up the fastest lap of the race, by the way. Then we got Barros, Pedrosa, Hayden, Edwards, Hopkins, and Vermeulen making up the points. Then Capirossi, Nakano, another disappointing result, 17th, Stoner, Tamada, and Bayliss. Again, Stoner and Tamada will be on the modern Honda for the next round going forth. So Biaggi now leads the championship, only 4 points adrift of both Melandri and Rossi. Barros goes down to 4th. We drop down to 6th, just behind Roberts, and Ukawa is right behind us. And the teams, we drop down from 6th to 9th because Nakano just did not score any points. Let's just hope this isn't one of those single rider point teams, which really would not be ideal, because I'd like to get at least 5th in the standings. But next week, hopefully, we'll be going over to Road Atlanta for the South African Grand Prix. And I will see you guys there at Belcom, South Africa. Take care.